Good afternoon, welcome back to the Alban allotment. So today's video, as promised, is going to be the delayed plot 12 tour, which was meant to be last week's video, but I swapped it with plot 79's tour because this plot was just a little bit too difficult to walk around to do a proper route and show you all the things that I wanted to show you. But it's kind of back to normal. There's some good stuff to show you, some sad stuff to show you, but we will get into that. So if you follow me, I will meet you over by the start of plot 12 to start the tour. Here we are at the start of plot 12, mid-May. So at the front here, we had our tulips. These have all just gone over now, so probably need to take off these seed pods sooner rather than later, which is really sad. They literally went over a couple of days ago. You can still see the petals down there. And then that's kind of it for bulbs at the front. The daffodil leaves are still there, but we're waiting for those to die back, obviously, before cutting any of the foliage back. And yeah, that's kind of it over, really. Behind that, we have our onions. Now this is where the first sad thing really comes into play. Unfortunately, even though they've been netted, we have seen some allium leaf miner on them. We haven't gone through and figured out exactly which ones are affected and which ones aren't. But you can see, like back there's one that's really affected and it's very, very warped and twisted. But then there's some others that seem okay. So I think we probably just need to get in there, take out the ones that we think are the most likely affected, and then just hope for the best for the others. I'm not sure why they've been so affected, because they have been netted, and I know that it's not just one piece of netting, but it's quite a big overlap where the two pieces of netting meet each other. And it's kind of the same on the garlic, and the garlic, from what I can see, doesn't seem to be affected by leaf miner, but the onions do. The garlic has been covered since probably a very early February time, so maybe these just got covered a little bit too late, I'm not sure. But sadly, we do have some leaf miner damage there. It could have been in the soil, I guess, already, because we did our onions kind of there-ish last year on this plot. I can't remember exactly where, but it was around about there. So potentially they were just already in the soil. There's also quite a lot of weeds in there, mostly nasturtiums and dandelions and stuff. We have already given this a weed recently, but it looks like it needs another go. And then next to that, yes, as I say, we have our garlic. So the garlic at this side of the bed has just started to get its garlic scapes, actually. So this is all hardneck garlic, I now know. And I've been reading up that it's not a bad thing for them to get scapes. We just need to make sure that we take them off and eat them if we want to let the bulbs continue to form. As I say, I haven't seen any leaf miner damage in there yet. I have checked a couple, and we pulled one out completely just to check it, and it seemed okay. So fingers crossed they're all okay, because I'll be really sad if we lose our garlic harvest this year. So this is the ones that were in modules. So these are the ones that Sergio's dad gave us, probably up to about here, where you can see like it's pushing up on the netting and the scapes are starting to form. And then next to that, somewhere in there, there's meant to be some elephant garlic somewhere around there, but they're quite hard to see now. And then along here, well, these were all direct sown, I think probably around December time. And again, they're looking really healthy. I can't see any real signs of leaf miner in there. I think this is also meant to be hardneck garlic, but they haven't started to throw up their scapes yet, probably because they're a little bit younger. But fingers crossed, there's no leaf miner damage in there. There is a lot of nasturtiums in there. So we had all of our nasturtiums at the front last year, and they were just left to self-seed, and now they're popping up like crazy. So we need to get in there and weed those out as well. Maybe try and save some and put them somewhere else on the plot. Now this bed we have finally cleared. So the kale was here. We've finally taken all that out, given it a quick hoe, but nothing too major, just to get the really big stuff off, which we kind of need to do in that bed over there, actually. And then Sergio has started digging it. And then we have one thing in the ground here. This is a cheeky curry, or however you say it. I do love hearing the different pronunciations people have of it, but we say you cheeky curry. Might be completely wrong. I have absolutely no idea. We've actually really struggled to get those to germinate this year, and I know that a couple of other people have as well, but this is one that we did get to germinate. So the plan is, because these beds are a funny shape, so if you look from the front, this is at an angle, so it creates kind of a triangle. The plan is, in all these weird spaces, to put a squash and then just trail it down the gap along the side. So hopefully we'll get some squash down the side there. Nothing else is in this bed yet. I think it's almost time for us to get it ready though, because we have got some corn and stuff ready to go out, which I can show you just here. This is definitely ready to go out. We have some chilies there and some aubergines as well. These were just kind of sown as a test really, because I'd like to see if I sow stuff, well, when did I do those? I did those on the 17th of April. So I thought if I do some now, I can do an experiment to see how much they catch up with the ones that I did in January and February. Obviously it relies on us having a good summer, but if we do have a good summer, it'll be interesting to see if we get harvest at all and how good it is compared to doing them early. And it might affect how many we do early on in the year, but we'll see. And this is where our incinerator was last time. So the bed is basically clear now. We just need to actually it's clear of stuff other than weeds. So we just need to weed it out really. And then we can start to grow stuff up the arch and put stuff in. I think we're planning to put carrots here, maybe carrots and parsnips, because they did exceptionally well there last year. So hopefully by doing them here, we'll also have some really good ones. The parsnips last year germinated really well, but we didn't sow them until like June or July. And they were fantastic and they were in time for Christmas, so we'll probably do the same again. We have another little squash down here. This one is a butternut squash, and again, just using it to fill up this space. Obviously this bed isn't quite ready, but I still wanted to get it in the ground anyway. We'll just have to try and avoid it when we're tidying this bed up. In here was where we had some failed radishes and some failed spinach, but we redug over the bed to start again. Some leftover tomatoes of Sergio's tomatoes. And then we redid some radish and some bits here. So down here in the middle here, we have some radish. This is the same type again, Sparkler 3, but whatever is eating it is having a good old go on it. They look terrible. It doesn't look like slugs, it looks like something else. Maybe aphids, I'm not really sure. All I know is that they are really struggling and everyone else is getting radish harvests while we can barely get ours going. I've been trying to hoe in between it as well to try and keep the weeds out, but it's quite tricky. Next to that, we have some just classic boltardy beetroot. These are just starting to come up now. Looking okay. They don't seem to be as affected by whatever is affecting the radishes, so that's good. And then next to that we have two types of two types of spinach. So this one is Amelia, which are also coming up and don't seem so affected. And then next to that we have Lazio, which again have all started to come up and don't seem too affected. And then lastly on the end we have some Bright Lights chard. Not a huge fan of chard, but we're trying it again on this plot just to see if it makes a difference in the different soil, because we did them in compost and no dig beds last year. We didn't really like the taste, but we don't know if that was due to the compost or the flooding or what, so we're trying them again and we will try to harvest them as smaller leaves as well, and hopefully we can get some baby leaf salad out of it. Another squash here again to fill this weird space here. Some raspberries, which we haven't found a home for yet. Here, been doing some backup sowings of brassicas and also one of the cucumbers as well, the white cucumbers. I'm just sowing these as kind of backups because I'm not super confident in how well the brassicas here are doing, which I'll show you in a bit. But basically we've got some more kale, so some kale, Ethiopian kale. Should probably label these a bit better. Nope, I can't remember what CW means. But down here we have, oh my god, I really need to label these better. So we have some all year round cauliflower, green sprouting broccoli, purple sprouting broccoli, which we haven't done yet. So I've just got those in ready and they will go at the end of the brassica cage, which I'll show you soon. Calabrese broccolis, sprouts gold marble, and sprouts Evesham special as well. Hopefully these won't even need to be used apart from the, that is Cavolo Nero, not CW, Cavolo Nero. So we don't have any of that out yet, and we don't have any purple sprouting broccoli out yet. They are going to go at the end of the brassica cage, which I'll show you in a bit. But you hopefully won't need to use them because the ones in the brassica cage will hopefully be okay, but they're just there as backups. Some aubergines, which didn't make it into their final pots yet and don't really have anywhere to go, and some rosemary down there. The big greenhouse had a bit of a makeover, so Sergio has been doing a bit of edging using some of the bricks that we took from my mum's garden. These tomatoes have just been watered, so don't worry about the fact that they're wilting. And then other than that, we've taken out most of the staging and starting to get some of the stuff in the ground so that Sergio can put his tomatoes in here, as well as a couple of my aubergines too. I think these are all San Marzano. So again, now that we have These canes, we're not limited to running string down just where the hoops are, so now we have a zigzag in here as well, which is quite nice. So we have a zigzag of San Mazzanos here. They've only just gone in, but they're looking quite green and lovely already. I'm sure soon they will really take off. A lot more leftover tomatoes because Sergio did a lot of them. Hopefully we'll be able to do some at home. And then at the back, just a lot of stuff that really needs to go out. So there's some pumpkins and some squashes in here, some more sweet peas, some cabbages which really need putting on, or they're a bit wilty as well. And then underneath that, actually, we have something a little bit more exciting. So we have some very terrible cayenne peppers from Sutton's, which have barely done anything. But next to that, we have some grape seedlings. So there's quite a few, actually. I think I've got like 3 pots like this to germinate. They're all from saved seed. I know they're going to take a long time to do anything, but it is the cheapest way of us getting new plants, a lot of them. I just wish I'd done a few more now because they are looking absolutely fantastic and like little grapes, which is really nice. So if you're wondering, I just took the seeds from when I made grape juice last year from the grapes that we had, from the really nice grape plant, dried them out, put them in the fridge over winter, and then, oh, when did I put them in the, oh, I did mark it, okay, good. I put them in pots on the 31st of the 3rd, and then they were at home for a bit, and since it warmed up, they've now been in the greenhouse. It took quite a long time for them to germinate, but once they did, they've taken off quite quickly, which is really nice. And then Sergio's got some chilies next to that. I think they might be like basket of fire and a few other types as well. The Campsis, although it got knocked back by the frost, is looking pretty cool now. The sweet corn that I showed you earlier, it's a bit of an assault course in here. Trying to get through all the string without strangling myself. Some parsley, and then some, oh yeah, the nicotine plants, nicotiana. They are finally starting to do something. And then some more brassicas which never made it out and started to bolt. Lots more tomatoes. When it's windy, actually, we get a nice breeze coming through from this louver window, which will hopefully help us with blight this year, because we never had a louver window before. I'm hoping a draft near the bottom, it shakes the plants quite nicely. I'm hoping the draft near the bottom will be enough to ward off any blight on the leaves and keep them nice and dry. And then in the middle, we have some melons and cucumbers. Couldn't tell you which one's which yet. I think maybe 2 of them are cucumbers and maybe 2 are melons. But very much looking forward to seeing those go as well. So you can see we have quite a lot of space in this greenhouse now, especially when we take out the stuff at the back as well. Really love it. It actually might be my favourite thing on this plot. The water troughs, we've moved those around from plot 79 now, but they're not level yet. Eventually they will be, but they're not. We don't need them desperately because we do have the water trough, the shared one there, which is on the mains. But eventually it'll be nice to be collecting rainwater again. At the minute they're just being used for storage. Down the side here we have, I think these are velotti beans. A few more have just started to germinate actually that we'd given up hope on. Some lettuce underneath that and some peas. And then some of my leftover tomatoes, which probably won't go anywhere. They might go home, but maybe we'll give those away or just put them in the ground somewhere. We haven't really decided yet. And then down here we have Sergio's borlotti beans on this plot. These are finally starting to form beans. They're actually looking pretty big now, which is quite nice. So hopefully these won't be in the ground too much longer and we can reclaim the space for something. This would be a good spot for some sweet corn or something like that. Next to that, oh actually we've got a big poppy forming here. So I am trying to leave the poppies so that we can take the seed from them. And if I can take them small enough, maybe move them over to Fruit Tree Avenue, where there are a few popping up, but it would look quite nice there. There's a sedum popping up there as well. Next to that we have some okay looking lettuce. It hasn't bolted yet, but we probably need to start actually using it. It looks pretty nice, but we haven't been harvesting it much. We probably should. And then next to that we have some peas. So the reason these are covered with fleece is because I can't find the other normal tunnel just to stop the pigeons from eating them. But they are having a good old nosh on those peas. These are the leftover peas from plot 79 that didn't need to go in the ground. And they were looking really good, but I thought I'd just put them in the ground and use them as pea shoots here because there was a bit of a gap. And then obviously the pigeons got to them before I netted them. You'd think I'd learn. And then next to that, we have my broad beans on this plot. which I can only assume are a different variety to Sergio's because they're very short. I think they're both dwarf varieties, but I think this one is an extra dwarf variety. Couldn't tell you which one. I think a hornet just hit the greenhouse. That was quite scary. And these are a little bit behind. They were sown a couple of weeks behind, and they look like, well, they've had a lot of attention from bees, but I still can't see any beans forming on them yet, which is a bit frustrating, but I'm sure they will soon. And then another butternut squash just down there, which, well, we didn't do a very good job of leaving the space, but we can trail it along the edge again there. And then here, this bed was covered last time, but we've started digging this over. Haven't actually decided what to put in there yet. We're probably going to build another brassica cage. We have the netting already for it, and this will be where our cabbages go, because we don't have any cabbages in the ground yet. And obviously cabbages are quite big, so this would be a good space for some cabbages. Our strawberries, let me get my shadow out of the way. The strawberry runners from last year, finally just got those potted up actually in the last few days. And happy to say that there is indeed some strawberries. This is probably ready to pick. I feel bad picking it without Sergio here for the very first one of the year, but we should probably do that soon before the birds or the slugs get it. But hopefully these will be happy here, and hopefully we'll be able to take some more runners off them soon. I think we've been discussing where to put them a bit more long term. They are nice in pots and it keeps them away from birds and slugs a bit more. But the Fruit Tree Avenue beds are looking a little bit bare, so we're thinking maybe that can also be a strawberry bed as well in the future. It's still very messy back here. The roof of the old shed is being used to store wood. And yeah, generally there's just a lot of dumped stuff here. But there is one cool new addition, which is the old, well, this used to be my mum's woodshed, but my stepdad brought it over recently and gave it to us so we can use it as as a tool shed. So it needs a little bit of love. So the roof is a little bit rotten, so we need to refelt that. But generally, like, pretty happy with it. Just means we can put some of our tools in here and keep them out of the main shed, which gives us a bit more room. Oops, sorry, that was terrible camera work. Gives us a bit more room and stops maybe some of the more muddy things being kept in the shed, which is quite nice. And then I'll go down Fruit Tree Avenue this way. On this side of the arch, we have some borlotti beans coming up. Now I did put like 3 in, but only 1 came up. And then Sergio's dad has given us some more, so we'll probably just put Sergio's dad's ones here now. Well, that was harsh to say. And then next to that we have a peony and some gladioli just starting to come up. And as I said, there's a few poppies popping up here as well, which is quite nice. Some more strawberry runners, some more poppies. The actual fruit trees themselves are doing pretty well. So this one's a cherry, I think, and this one's an apple and then a plum. This is the peony that was taking a really long time to get going, but has finally caught up, or not caught up. Actually, yeah, it's not far off if you look at the one over there. However, the next one does have a flower bud forming, which is quite nice. Very much looking forward to this. Although I did see some ants on it, and now on my hand. Thankfully black ants, which would suggest that there's some aphids there for them to farm, but I can't actually see any on there. One of the alliums there, looking really nice. These sweet peas, they've gone in the ground at the right time. They weren't like desperate to go out, but they're not really doing anything at all. Hopefully they'll pick up soon. And then on the other side of Fruit Tree Avenue, some more sweet peas, another allium. So it's kind of basically the same on this side, except we have, I think this is an apple tree. Yep, an apple tree, which has got some apples forming. Look, I know you're meant to take them off, but it's very difficult to bring myself to do it, and it's only 2. Is it really going to be that hard for the tree? If it just means we get a slightly worse crop next year, then that's fine. None of the other peonies seem to have any flower buds on them yet. The pear's looking pretty happy. Some more nasturtiums that we've kind of, well, this one is self-seeded. That just popped up. These ones I've just put in recently, which is why they're not looking quite as happy. And this is another apple, yeah. I don't think there's any, oh there is, there's a few on here as well. Let me get my shadow out of the way. So maybe we'll get a couple of apples from this as well this year. And then the same on this side, a few more beans. You can see the one that's self-seeded, not self-seeded, the one that was direct sown, which is looking really sad and tatty next to the one that Sergio's dad's grown. So Yeah, I think we'll just fill that up with Sergio's ones. And then to the main event. So this is the biggest change this month, I think, which is the brassica cage. I did film putting it together, so I'll do a very quick video on it, but it's really not that difficult. It's quite sturdy, pretty happy with it if I'm honest. Aside from these posts in the ground, most of this was used using wood we already had. It's not as tall as I would like it, but obviously the taller it is, the more netting you need to buy. So this is proper butterfly netting this year, because last year we had major problems with cabbage whites getting through the bird netting. So hopefully we won't have any issues with with cabbage whites, but we are having an issue with aphids, which is annoying. So this extra netting on top, so there is just some normal butterfly netting underneath that, but this netting on top is just to shade them a little bit, because some of them are bolting and some of them are wilting even though it's been raining. So just giving them a little bit of extra protection. They're very needy plants this year. Just giving them a little bit of extra protection from the very hot sun that we've been having. Well, I say very hot for England. It was like 29 degrees the other day, I think, here, something like that. But underneath, you can see they're looking pretty healthy, but if you look a bit closer, you can see that there's some speckles on the leaves. I'm not sure if the camera's going to let me do that. Maybe put you under the netting, one sec. So if you look closely, you can see there is some speckles on the leaves. Same here as well, and it's, I think, because of aphids. I have been spraying it, there's a little grasshopper in there. I have been spraying them with a very dilute mixture of soap and oil, which usually works really well on chilies and aubergines, and I think these are going to be okay. Usually the aphids form like in the centre of the plant where the new growth is, and then they get deformed. I'm really hoping they're going to be fine, but this is why I have sown some more backups just in case. But let me talk to you about the ones that we've actually got. So we have sprouts here. So there's a big space here. This is where the purple sprouting broccoli and cavallonera is going to go. Oh my god, my shadow. So here we have sprouts Evesham Special, and then next to that 2 rows of green marble. Then we have an Ethiopian kale next to that, 2 rows of green sprout and broccoli next to that, which are looking pretty good, although I think it might be just about to bolt, but they're looking a lot better than they did last year anyway, so hopefully we'll get some decent broccoli off of that this year. Next to that, 2 rows of cauliflowers, all year round cauliflowers. These were sown in January. Now if we had this plot ready in time, I would have put them in the ground a lot earlier than we did, but because they were a little bit later than they should have, one at the back has just started to form a cauliflower and it's a little bit too small to be doing that, so I think that's classed as bolting, but I will show you that when we go around that side. So next year I think I probably still will sow it at the same time, but obviously we'll have this cage ready, and if there's no club root here then they're just going to go straight in the ground here as soon as they can. Next to that we have, so you can see they're a little bit wilted still, very frustrating, but next to that we have some calabrese broccolis, 2 rows of that as well. Looking pretty good other than potentially bolting and a bit of, I think, aphid damage. I don't think it's slug damage, so I've looked at this leaf here which has got the holes in, which looks like caterpillar holes, but it's not. I think there's aphid holes as well. We'll just have to try and hope for the best, I think, or put some backups in when they grow as well. Other than that, there's just a lot of weeding needing doing in there because this ground was horrendous. It was so compact where we'd been using it as a working space. And it's full of bindweed as well, so we did need to give it a dig over, which was not fun. I actually really hurt my arm doing it. I had to take a couple of days off to let my arm heal. I could let my bones were aching from having to break up the soil. But it's done now, well, kind of done. The bindweed is still trying its very best. But this is the cauliflower that's trying to form one. I mean, it's edible, but it's definitely not the size that it should be. But nevertheless, hopefully these other ones will be fine. And we can put some more in their space when they come out anyway. Bindweed giving its best go. And then again, except for the fact that they're direct sown, some more squash here. So these are Uchiki curry, which were direct sown a few weeks ago, and they finally started to come up alongside the bindweed. I think we're going to have a real issue with bindweed on this plot, especially towards the end. But we'll get on top of it eventually. So I wasn't expecting both of these squash to come up, but maybe we'll grow one up and over the frame and then one down the side here, or we'll just take one out and move it over to the other side or something. That's kind of where all the good stuff ends. The back is a bit of a catastrophe, especially now the bindweed is really going for it. But we will deal with this when we can. I don't think we're too far off being able to deal with this now. We haven't got much more of this plot to go in terms of kind of digging over, getting beds ready and stuff. There's obviously the front beds need weeding, and that side one needs digging over and then some sort of a frame putting in. But other than that, I think we're kind of there. We can start to do other jobs again. And plot 79 as well. We've just got the back bit or the end bit of plot 79 to do, where we need to define the paths where the pumpkins are going to go. But other than that, I think we will soon be able to start tackling this horrible mess soon. It's not even all rubbish. We just need to find homes for some of it. Some of it is rubbish, but not all of it. And then the shed itself, again, hopefully soon we'll get time to paint it. It's the right temperature to be painting it now. We just don't have the time. It's the wrong time of year in terms of like being a gardener and having so much to do. In terms of the windows, I have now cut the glass for that. So we've got the wood cut for it. We've got the glass cut for it. It's just a case of finding the time to put it together and then actually attach it, which I can't do on my own. I do need Sergio's help to hold it. But I'm hoping that will get done in the next month. We're so close to being able to get some more of these annoying jobs done. Really, really close, but we're not quite there yet. And the inside of the shed is also an absolute catastrophe. We haven't actually made lunch in there for quite a while because it's just too difficult to do anything in there. But we're getting there. I think we're almost ready to do some other jobs. There we go, plot 12, mid-May. It's definitely starting to come together. There is some annoying jobs at the back, but I do have to remind myself that we're so much further ahead from where we were last year. This time last year we didn't even have plot 12. We only took plot 12 over like June, at the end of June or maybe mid-June last year. So we hadn't even got this plot at that point, and then plot 79 flooded again at the end of May. Fingers crossed it doesn't flood again this year. And so we took this on in June, and we were obviously like basically starting from scratch again. So we had to clear loads of rubbish from this plot. It looked very different from what it looks like today. We only had a few beds at the front to use where we cleared it. The back was just full of rubbish. And then the flooding went down on plot 79, so we spent time putting the big greenhouse together there before we moved it here this year. And also putting the seating area together as well on plot 79. That didn't exist this time last year. We were doing so much in June and July time, which is when most people can kind of take their foot off the pedal a little bit with the gardening, because you've got a lot of stuff in the ground already. We just couldn't, because we had to catch up and we need to just make space to plant into and stuff. So hopefully by that time this year, so by June and July this year, we should be able to relax a bit more and do some of the jobs that have been bothering us, like tidying up the rubbish at the back of plot 12, painting the shed, doing the windows, that kind of thing. And then hopefully next year we won't have any of those jobs to do. I mean, there's always going to be stuff to do. We're always going to find projects, but we've had a lot to do this year, getting this plot ready and plot 79 back to the state that it should be. But I think I can finally start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm very much looking forward to just being able to come down here and potter about and not do any ridiculously big jobs. But I'm not going to complain, because I do love it here, and I also love the challenge of getting something ready. But that said, I'm looking forward to taking my foot off the pedal just a little bit and enjoying the rest of this year in hopefully a slightly more relaxed manner. But anyway, before I keep rambling anymore, how are you getting on with your plot or your garden if you don't have a plot? I'd really love to hear from you, because it's going pretty well for us this year, minus a few issues, and I'm really also happy with the weather this year. We've had a really nice dry spring as well, and to be honest, I'm loving that. I know a lot of people prefer it when it rains a little bit, but we don't, because our plot floods, and I'm quite happy to do the watering by hand if necessary. Yeah, it's been a really nice spring so far, and hopefully we'll have a good summer as well, because last year was absolutely pants and everybody got blight because of how wet it was. So hopefully everyone will have a better year this year. Anyway, I am definitely rambling. Thank you for subscribing if you have subscribed, and if you haven't, please consider subscribing. And hopefully we get to see you again in the next video. So from me, Sergio and Poppy, take the very best of care, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.